we have framed like talking about sex with our kids as the talk, like one singular event.
Hey, hey, welcome back to the Torch Mom podcast. Tonight, we have a special guest with us, Holly, a Torch Mom taking on risk and crushing hate daily. Holly, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so excited.
You and me both. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yes, are you ready to get this party started?
Yes, I am so ready.
All right, let's dive into these questions then. What was your childhood like, and how do you think it shaped the woman you are today?
Oh, we're just gonna start off deep. Okay. Um, no, I love this. Um, so it's always funny because I I grew up thinking I lived very middle class, and it wasn't until I became an adult that I realized, like, oh no, baby, we were poor. And so, uh, my parents, my mom and my dad split when I was really young. I never remember them together, and I can never imagine them ever being together, ever. And so, I lived with my dad primarily. My brother and I were about a year and a half apart. We lived with my dad and then went to my mom's every other weekend. My mom remarried my stepdad, is, who was an amazing man. Um, and I have two half sisters. We have the same mom, and they both have the same dad. And my brother and I have the same dad. But my brother and I and my dad, we lived in a small apartment. We lived in like government subsidized housing, um, and went to public school up until about fourth grade. And then my dad met my stepmom, um, and we ended up moving more out of the suburbs into the city. My brother and I both went to Catholic school for a few years. And that was a wild experience. Looking back on it now, it kind of shaped, the work that I do today and kind of who I am. Went to Catholic school. We were like, we go to church every Sunday kind of family. And we were the kind of family that always would get annoyed on like Christmas Eve and Easter because, that's when all the people come that never come to church. And it's like, you can't even get a seat. We come here every Sunday. What the heck? So that really, was a big kind of part of my life. And then, I was getting ready to go into high school. My brother was getting ready to go kind of into middle school, and Catholic school is just going to be way too expensive. And so we ended up moving out into a different suburb, and that's where I finished kind of my youth in growing up.
Okay.
And yeah, it was, pretty uneventful overall. But like I said, it wasn't until I was going to college and filling out like all my FAFSA paperwork that I realized like what my dad's income was. And I was like, wait, holy crap. Like that's not enough to survive on. Like that's not even enough money.
Mhm.
Wait, what? And it really like opened my eyes to a lot of things because like as a little kid, when you are like, can we do this? Can I join this like soccer team or this or that? And my parents said no. I just thought like they obviously don't want me to be cool and they don't want me to fit in with other kids. They
Mhm.
obviously don't want me to be successful in life, but it really was a money thing and they never talked about it in that way. And
Mhm.
my dad worked as a cook in a restaurant. It was this restaurant he worked since he was like in high school. And so, he worked long hours a lot. So thankfully we had a lot of family in the area. But we would get dropped off after school. The bus would take us to my grandma's apartment. And my grandma would watch us till my dad got off from work. My dad worked late on
Mhm.
Fridays. So Fridays were like hang out with grandma, watching, TGIF and eating good dinner that my grandma would make us and stuff like that. and being up
Mhm.
late, and seeing them pick like the lottery, like the Powerball and stuff
Oh,
like
yeah.
that, like lotto like late at night when my dad was coming to get us. So yeah, I just have like a lot of like these like little random memories as a kid. Um, and now like looking back on it, um, my parents were divorced at a young age. And they both remarried and had really great relationships. But I married my first husband when I was on the younger side in my mid-20s. Um,
Okay.
and yeah, I thought like I needed to settle down. It was like, I'm in my mid-20s. It's time to settle down. It's time to, this person has a good job. We were both teachers at the time, a lot of stability, blah, 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 blah. So there were a
Mhm,
lot of
mhm.
things I overlooked, or kind of just like put it to the side, like, oh, that's not that serious. You're making a big deal out of nothing, kind of thing that
Mhm.
really kind of came to light after the wedding, and after a few years after the wedding, like a lot of financial control, a lot of stuff around money, um, just control in general. Like, couldn't go out with people without like my phone blowing up. And it was wild because I was like, here I am. I'm a health teacher, right? I'm working with like middle schoolers and high schoolers and teaching them about healthy relationships. And
Mhm.
I'm in an unhealthy relationship and I'm not
Mm.
seeing the red flags. And I'm sitting here teaching these kids to recognize these red flags. And it just got to a breaking point where I was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't pretend to be happy for the sake of staying in this marriage. And so I made the decision to leave the marriage, um,
Okay.
which was tough. And I was like, you always want to grow up and be better than your parents were. You always want, and things like that. And I'm like, I don't want to be just like my parents. I don't want to be divorced and things like that.
Yeah.
But it ended up being the best decision, of course, the right decision for me and the safest decision for me. Even though it was hard, it was a good decision. But it was a big, excuse me, I'm so sorry, a
No
big
worries.
influential moment in
Mhm.
my life, from growing up for sure.
Yeah. Wow. Well, you started off deep there, you know?
Figure I'd give it right back to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm. I see you. Well, what a turn. Hmm. Well, let's dig a little deeper.
Mhm,
So now, before motherhood jumped in, what were
mhm.
you doing? What were you passionate about at that time?
Yeah. Great question. Um, so a lot of things. So I went to school to become a health educator, health teacher. Um, and I did that for a long time. And it was great. I was that kid like since like kindergarten. I'm gonna be a teacher. I'm gonna be a teacher. I'm gonna be a teacher. And so when I became one, it felt really great. And I knew I always wanted to teach like in our city school district. It was always
Mm,
really just a passion of mine. Like I really just want to connect with kids in a way that was mutually beneficial to both of us. And I say
mm,
that because like in my time teaching, so many kids get overlooked by systems, because they, they quote unquote act out. They do these things, right?
mhm,
And they're getting punished by these systems. And it was always funny when I was a teacher because a lot of teachers would say, "Oh, we're having issues with so and so. We're having issues." I'm like, I don't have issues with that kid because I'm not punishing him the second he like breathes the wrong way. Like these
mm,
kids have if you just do you ever take a second to like talk one-on-one to these kids like what's going on, you will find out so much. You will lose so much sleep at night because these kids are going through so much stuff. I had like this kid just we had a fire drill and this kid was just all over the place, like so much stuff, like needed so much support. And so I called mom to let her know and she was like, I don't know what to do with him anymore. I've given up on him. And I'll never forget that phone call. Like I can see myself in that classroom and that was like 15 years ago easily. And I'm like, how can you I don't understand how you get there to say I've given up on my kid. Like, holy cow. What? Um it got to be to the point where the system was so broken that it was breaking me.
Mhm.
And I needed a change. I wasn't finding joy anymore. I was dreading going to work. I was sick to my stomach every Sunday night, getting ready to go to work, not knowing what was going to be that day, kind of thing. I knew I needed a change, so I applied to over 100 different jobs and got some interviews, and then got the lovely letter in the mail that was like, "Thank you so much for coming in. We've decided to go in a different direction," kind of thing. And it was
Mhm.
defeating. And finally, I got an interview for a job. And during the interview, it was for a birth control clinic. And they were like, so here's kind of the rundown of the job a little bit. Like every day's different, but you're going to be expected to like go into classrooms, talk about sexual health. Occasionally, you're going to have to do like some street outreach, like go to businesses and things like that, and bring like condoms and things for businesses. I was like, wait, for real? Like that's the job? That is so cool. Like I was so pumped about it, and I ended up getting that job, which was a tough transition because it was a huge pay cut from teaching to go into community health. It was
Mm.
like a $20,000 pay cut in my salary. It was a big decision to do it, but it was the
Okay.
best decision ever. Um, from there, I found out at a conference that I was at about public health policy, and I went back to school to get my second master's in public health. So I had
Mhm.
my master's in education and then my master's in public health. I was in the process of interviewing for another job while I was in Washington D.C., like at graduation. Um, and I got the job shortly after. So I worked in HIV prevention education for a while. Um, then the pandemic happened, and
Okay.
a lot of stuff kind of shifted during
Mhm.
the pandemic. I went from traveling all the time for work, in person doing workshops. I worked a part-time job at nights and on the weekends. Like I was go, go, go. Pandemic,
Mhm.
everything stalls. Um, the summer of 2020, my spouse and I were like, we want to have a baby. We want to try getting pregnant. I was 34. Yeah, 34 at the time. So I was like,
Mhm.
listen, you know, as far as as far as pregnancy goes, I'm getting a little low on the time. And it felt like the right time. So,
Okay.
went through the process, and got pregnant pretty quickly. Surprisingly, I was shocked at how quickly. And we had a pandemic wedding. We had planned to have a pandemic wedding. It wasn't because I got pregnant,
Okay.
and I couldn't tell anybody. I just found out the week before that I was pregnant, and I didn't want to tell anybody yet. And I was starting to feel the nausea stuff and trying to keep it all together. Like, thankfully, we could only have 8 people in the venue. Like, we couldn't even have like that many people. Like, my dad lives in North Carolina, and
Okay.
I had him on an iPad with me walking down the aisle.
Mm.
So it was so cute. It was really sweet. Um, but yeah, I was like, felt like I was living my best life, and then everything halted a few months before I got pregnant, and things shifted super, super quickly. And, pregnancy was really rough for me. I had morning sickness for like 30 of the 40 weeks. It was awful. I did not love it at all. And it was in the pandemic. So it's not like people could come see me. It's not like I could do anything. I was in the
Mhm.
house just miserable, just laying on the couch, watching movies, trying to keep some semblance of food down. It was just a lot, but it all ended up working out in the end. Obviously, I have a beautiful almost 5-year-old, so
Yeah. Well, I mean, And then what would you say your biggest fears or anxieties were becoming a mom?
oh, everything. All of it. So I'm very, very thankful that I
Okay.
had such an amazing medical team from start to finish. Um, I have diagnosed anxiety, and that was monitored every single appointment. I was being asked about my anxiety, and I'm really thankful. And during pregnancy, for the first like half, I wasn't really like worried.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm a big baby and I have a low tolerance for pain. So I was a little nervous about like pushing a baby out. But I will
Okay.
say as it got closer to it, I'm like, I'm actually very calm about it. I'm not nervous. I had to keep reminding myself like my my body's made to do this. Like my body
Mm-hmm.
knows I'm not the first person to have a baby. Like millions and millions and millions of people have had babies before me, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I I kept trying to tell myself that, reminding myself. Um, I don't think I was super nervous or had like a lot of anxiety. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't really until after I had the baby when the anxieties kicked in from
Okay.
like the minute. I
Mm.
think my biggest anxiety, I will say though, my biggest anxiety, and if I'm going to be honest, it's still an anxiety I have now. I don't know why, but in my head, I'm like, this baby isn't gonna make it. One night she's just gonna die in the middle of the night for no reason, and I'm not gonna know it even happened. I don't. Sometimes I'll just still have that anxiety. I'm like, snap out of it, sister. Like,
Mm-hmm.
why? That's not something you need to stress about. She is in a safe
Yeah.
environment. She is fine. She is safe. Like, if you start playing with like this could happen or this could happen, you're gonna torture yourself, and you're gonna not enjoy the good moments of parenthood. And so, yeah, a lot of the anxiety was like that came after for sure.
Mm. Yeah. I can definitely resonate with that one. And the feeling of still having it, yeah,
Mhm.
because my baby was born preemie and
Mm,
she wasn't fully developed. So she was 2 pounds, 15 ounces, and that was crazy for
wow.
me.
Yeah.
I left without her and I was
Mm,
just like, I just hope she makes it every day, still up to
yeah.
now, you know?
Yeah.
Well, I feel you. But like you said, you can't go through all the changes because man, I probably wouldn't even have any hair, Holly.
Yeah. Oh no, same. Same.
Yeah. Man, how do you think becoming a mom shift your sense of identity?
Yeah, that's such a great question. Um, I would say in the beginning, it shifted my identity a lot. Um, I went from being like independent, going and doing all this stuff, being like this badass, sex
Mhm,
educator, and I was, starting into a lot of like activism work and things like that before I was a
mhm,
mom. And then I was like, no, my only identity is I'm a mom. That's why I'm mom. And it was like that for the first 3-4 months.
okay.
And if I, like, went somewhere, the immediate guilt, like, if I had to go somewhere without my baby, I felt so guilty. I'm like, "I'm not doing my job as mom," and stuff, and I had to have a lot of really close people tell me, like, "Yes, you're a mom. You're a mom. You're this child's mom, but
Mhm.
your only identity isn't mom. You have to still be Holly."
Yeah.
I don't think I fully embraced that until, like, maybe 6 months ago. I'm not gonna lie. And,
Mhm.
like, I got a lot better, you know what I mean? Like, I don't feel, like, as guilty. There are still some times when I feel guilty when especially weeks, like, when I have a lot of stuff going on in the evenings and things like
Mhm,
that, and I have to be gone. I still feel really guilty and things like that, even though I know my kid is at home with my spouse, like, she's being well taken care of. She is so glad to see me. She's not, like, losing her mind,
mhm,
she's fine. Um,
Yeah.
but I still have that feeling of like guilt and things like that. But I had to shift my mindset. Like I can't do and live the life that I was before becoming a mom in that same way. But that doesn't mean I still can't do those things,
Mm,
right?
mm,
Um, so like with my activism work, my kid has been coming to protests and things with us since she was like 6 months old. Like, we bring her to everything. If I have an event that I'm speaking at, she's there. You know what I mean? And I
mhm,
think it's important for her to be at these types of events and to meet so many cool people. Um, but it's also good, and I've had a few friends reach out to me too. Like, it's also good for other moms or moms to be to
mhm,
see that too. Like, your whole
mhm,
life doesn't end when you become a mom. It just shifts. It just looks different, right? Like, yeah, we got to get this like rally going, bro, because like it's almost bedtime.
mhm.
So like, let's wrap it up. So it looks a little different now, um, but
Mm,
but I still make it work, and I'm very thankful to have amazing mom friends
yeah.
who constantly remind me of this, whether they're telling me directly or they're showing me. Like I see them
Mm,
doing it's like, oh yeah, that's right. I remember now.
yeah. Mm. Well, that's awesome. Okay. So let's shift from that mom side a little bit. And I want to say before we do, moms, this may be the time that you, I don't know, depending on how you parent or what you feel like, you might want to get the kids to the next side of the room or put you some headphones on because I have some different questions to ask.
Yes.
So I'm going to give you about, let me see, maybe 10 more seconds for you to get that popping. And you can pause it too, if you're listening or watching, make sure you hit the pause button for a second and do what I said. You know what I mean, Holly.
I'm
Yep.
so excited and I'm a little nervous. I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, oh gosh.
Yes, because we definitely have Holly in the building, and she's not just Holly, she is that sex educator. Okay. And I want you guys to be able to get some juice tonight and gems, a little bit of knowledge that you may not already have, and build some comfortability for you guys through Holly, and that you guys can know that she's a resource.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Okay. So, Holly, my first question for you on this side is we know parents want to get it right when it comes to talking to their kids about sex and boundaries.
Mhm.
But that pressure can stop them from even starting.
Mhm.
What would you say a healthy, real approach actually looks like at home?
Yes. So, if you're listening to this, I want you to take a deep breath. You're doing a great job. Um, there is no such thing as the perfect way to handle this. So I'll take some pressure off. People like myself who've been doing this work for a very long time, who talk to thousands and thousands and thousands of people about sex and sexual health, still struggle to talk to their own kids about it because it's a different environment.
Mhm,
So hopefully that brings a little bit of comfort. One of the biggest things that I always talk about, and this is one of like my favorite topics to talk about in the whole wide world, um, is we have framed like talking about sex with our kids as the talk, like
mm,
one singular event. And in my mind, and I'm sure this is in the mind of other people too, they look a little different for you, but I picture like 90s sitcom, like parent and child sitting down and like across from each other. And, it's very awkward for everybody and uncomfortable. It either comes out of nowhere or like some little thing happened and now we have to have the talk. And if you're a boy at home, dad does the talk. If you're a girl at home, mom does the talk. Um, and that's a lot of pressure. Like, you have to get it right in this one talk. You have to know all of the answers. Y'all,
Mhm.
I have been doing this work for almost 20 years. I have 2 master's degrees. I don't have all the answers. I don't know all the answers either. So why are we expecting parents to know everything in one talk and for kids to ask all the questions they have in one opportunity?
Mm.
So I shift the conversation from having the talk to the talks. And the talks
Mm.
start when your kid is a baby. And I know that sounds wild because some people are like, wait a minute, what are you talking about with your kid? And you want me to talk about what? But think of this as like we are building, right? We are building from when they're a baby, and scaffolding and slowly building up the conversation. So, for example, and I bet a lot of people listening to this already do this or have done this. And so you're doing great. Um, when you are like changing diapers, when you're wiping, yes, your newborn has no idea what you're talking about. But you're getting into a habit, right? You're like, I'm wiping your vulva, or I'm wiping your penis, I'm wiping your butt, right? And we do
Mhm.
this, right? And so you're practicing using the correct body parts and names for the correct body parts, which is super important. As
Mm.
kids get a little bit older into toddlerhood, right? And setting boundaries and talking about consent, right? So in our family, you don't have to give hugs to people if you don't want to. And we have some
Mm.
family members that very much struggle with this. Like, oh, give me a hug. Oh, you're going to make me sad. It's like, oh, nope. And so I tell my child, I don't correct the adult's behavior in the moment because that can be confrontational. I talk
Mhm.
directly to my kid and say, you don't have to give anyone a hug you don't want to. If you want to do it later, or if you don't, that's okay too. Go play, have a good time. And so I model it that way because I think a lot of people struggle. Like, I'm not going to tell grandma or aunt so and so, I'm not going to
Mhm.
have this fight with them. You don't have to.
Mhm.
You parent your kid and then move on to the next thing. And then it doesn't have to be this big deal. But you can talk about boundaries, right? Like, when you're playing with your kid, you're tickling, you're play fighting, and a kid says stop, you immediately stop. Everybody stops the game, right? You just say, okay, stop. That is teaching them that their voice holds power. That when they say no, that means it's time to stop. That doesn't mean when we're having fun, when I say no, we keep going. It means we stop, right? Um, and then talking about qualities and friendships. Like, I'm a screen time mom. I don't have no shame in that. But I watch shows with my kid. And so we
Mhm.
sit and we're watching a show and they're like, and I'm like, oh, how is so and so feeling? Why do you think she's feeling that way? Why do you think her friend is acting like that? Do you think that's a good way our friend should be acting? These are
Mhm.
setting things up. So these conversations don't seem like they're about sexual health, but these build
Mhm.
up to when you're talking to your middle schoolers and high schoolers about dating relationships,
Mm.
when you're talking about consent in talking about like if they're going to engage in sex, um, when you're talking about knowing the right body parts, so when they go to the doctor and they need to ask for something, they can ask
Mm.
for things. They can tell a doctor when something is wrong.
Mm.
The body parts thing, we are really trying to um, help parents understand the importance of using the correct terminology. There is this long-standing story that a little girl went to the doctor and was telling the doctor about her cookie, and someone had touched her cookie, and the doctor was like, "Okay, well, why did don't let them touch your cookie?" He was thinking eating cookie. She was talking
Mhm.
about her vagina.
Mhm.
Someone in her family was touching her inappropriately.
Mhm.
But because we're teaching cutesy names, this got lost in translation, and services that could have been, rendered were not. Um, and so that's really important as part of sexual abuse and sexual violence prevention, especially among kids. um, when we're taking, when I'm helping my little one bathe, like, okay,
Mhm.
clean your hair, clean your hands, clean your arms, clean your chest and your belly, clean your legs, clean your vulva, clean your butt, so and this is practice. Okay, this is practice to say vulva, penis, testicles, the same way you say arms, legs, hair, right? Because they're
Mm-hmm.
body parts. And there's
Mm-hmm.
so many resources, so many books. Like we have a body book. It goes through all the bodies from head to your toe. My kid loves that book. And it includes reproductive parts. And I think
Okay.
it's so important because we just normalize it. And kids won't make it weird if you don't make it weird.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and sometimes little kids don't know that like they're not supposed to say, I have a penis. I have a penis. I have a penis. And then I have to say, no, actually you have a vulva. And then I have to remember we're on the way to dance class and not all parents are having these conversations with kids. And I don't need my kid going around saying I have a penis or I have a vulva. So then we have to
Right.
talk about like when these conversations are okay to have and appropriate to have.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going, but your body is beautiful and it's not shameful. And so I don't want you to think that. Y'all, I was having so much struggle with this conversation. I was not prepared for a 4-year-old to be in the backseat of my car on the way 2 minutes from dance class, talking about all her body parts that she doesn't have. So if you break it up into these talks over time,
Mm-hmm.
use movies and TV, use books that you are reading to have these conversations, then you're building on them. And you're also building this safety net for your kid to ask you questions because they
Mm.
will. And they're going to ask you questions to try to see how you're going to react. And there's going to be times where your first initial reaction is going to be to freak out. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do that. Oh my gosh, excuse me. I'm so sorry. I was
No
tickling my
worries.
throat.
Mm-hmm.
Um, don't freak out. It's okay if you don't have the answer. You say, I don't know. Let's look at that up together. Or let me check that on that. Excuse me. I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay.
Whew. Apparently my voice is like, no, don't talk about this anymore. Voice, get it together. We're talking.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got to use some
The,
water.
yeah, no, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay.
It just like was a tickle that just like would not go away. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the other thing too, I will say is being able to apologize when you make a mistake. That's important. So
Mm.
important. Kids see that you're not perfect and there is
Mm-hmm.
no need to be this quote unquote perfect person that has all the answers and does everything right.
Hmm.
You're going to make mistakes. You're going to say the wrong thing. And it's okay to say, I reacted in a way that is not how I wanted to react. And I apologize for that. I'd like to
Mm-hmm.
talk about what happened. That's so easy to say, but a lot of us did not ever have that modeled for us as kids. And so there is like this expectation, especially now with social media, there's this expectation for parents to know how to do all of the things
Mm-hmm.
without having it modeled for us. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's why like this conversation is so important. It's one I'm so passionate about because I want to continue to model that for parents. Like I want to give you all the resources. This isn't a gatekeeping thing. Like this is like I want to give you this knowledge. Like here, take it, take it, take it, take it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's a workshop I'm actually building that will be available on my website soon.
Okay.
I it's a process I'm working on. But I did I'm trying to oh yep, there it is. I was trying to remember what episode number it was. I did do a podcast episode about this recently on my podcast. And so it's episode 125, Beyond the Talk. So
Okay.
it gives a lot of tips, and this is great for parents, but it's also good for any adults who work with kids in any capacity. So if you're aunt, older sister, a coach, a youth pastor, or things like that, and you work with youth, this conversation is still important to you, and I give examples that are specific to parents, but also like what this could look like and what these conversations could look like if you're not like the parent, but you're the trusted adult in a kid's life.
Okay, you said that's episode 125, right?
Yes.
Okay, because I want to make sure I put this in the description section for them.
Yeah,
And you
absolutely.
said beyond the talk?
Yep.
Okay, got it. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yes, I will make sure I put that in there so they can get to it easily and find exactly what you're speaking on and go check out that podcast.
Yes,
Yeah.
please. Yes, it's my baby. It's my other baby.
Right, right. I want to take it back a little bit when you started talking about shame because
Mhm.
so much of what we carry around sex is rooted in shame.
Mhm.
And where would you say you see that showing up the most in moms today?
Ooh. It's it's coming from so many different places. Um,
Mhm,
we just in general, we live in a society where sex is taboo and very stigmatized. Um, and that is intentional.
mhm,
um, it is not like part of some broken system. That is a bunch of systems working intentionally. Um, and so um, anytime we talk about things like sex and pleasure and joy, right? These are things that systems in power do not want people to have.
mhm,
We're not supposed to be joyful, right? And we're seeing that now, in the United States, um, with a lot of this like "Make America Healthy Again" or MAHA movement.
mhm,
It is very focused on the only point of having sex is to reproduce, and like that's a part for some people, but
mhm,
also let's talk about it should be very pleasurable. It should be very fun. I mean, even if you're just making a baby, like it should still be fun. It should still be enjoyable for everybody involved. Um,
yeah,
and so these things are part of systems. And then, when you get into, some of the other systems at play. So, when we talk about a lot of religions are not super sex positive, and growing up Catholic and going to Catholic school,
mhm,
this is something I very much I very much saw a lot of. I didn't really actually talk a lot of, and so these things are very very stigmatized among folks, and it's very like hush hush, we don't talk about that kind of thing. Um, and you know, a lot of cultures do not are not sex positive as well. When I was working in
mhm,
HIV prevention education, we did a lot of work along the Northeast, but we did also a lot of work in Puerto Rico and the US Virgin Islands. And there's a lot of folks that were like, no, we're not talking about sex. And especially a lot of folks and a lot of cultures and religions who are very anti-LGBTQ plus, right? And so a lot of folks in that community get left out of the conversation completely. Even in, I live in New York State, progressive, blue, all this stuff, right? Um, and the sex education, like the curriculum that they were having us teach,
mhm,
was not inclusive of LGBTQ plus folks. We were doing a huge disservice to these
mhm,
kids. We're only talking about sex as like not getting pregnant and not get contracting an STI. We're coming at it from very like um, risk avoidant or risk reduction, and we're not coming at it from a pleasure center. focus, which a lot of schools are like, I don't even want you coming here talking about condoms. It's like, oh, okay, cool. That's awesome.
Mhm.
And and you had a lot of kids that were like, no, we desperately need this information. We need to know it. And the questions they would ask, like when I was coming in as like a guest speaker, when I was working in community health,
Mhm.
the questions kids would have um, were intense. But
Mm.
I was so glad that I was there for them to ask them. You know what? I would go in and teachers would be like, health teachers would be like, well, I don't want to talk about XYZ topic. Like, that's your job, babe. That's your
Yeah.
job. If you're uncomfortable with something in your personal life, like work that out. Work that out in therapy, work that out with a mentor, work that out with somebody. Also, I'm glad you have that self awareness that you brought somebody else in to do it because that's all we're going to talk about today. That
Mhm.
because these kids are going to get this information. So, you know, it's trying to fill the gaps. And it was a big thing when I left teaching, when I was doing community education to fill gaps. It was a thing when I was doing
Mhm.
HIV prevention education. Where can I fill gaps within communities? And now that I'm doing my own thing as that sex educator and running my own business, now it's like, where are the gaps from all the different positions I've held and the gaps that I'm seeing on social media? And then now, how can I fill those gaps? Um,
Mhm.
and so, yeah, there's just shame's coming from everywhere. Shame is coming
Yeah.
from everywhere. And it's an unlearning process. It's a process I'm still unlearning sometimes every day. And this is my job. This is my life. So, um, I don't want people to be so hard on themselves because they just live in a culture where this is shameful.
Mhm.
And exist in systems where it's shamed and shameful.
Yeah. And then you think about it, even especially while raising kids at the same time.
Mm. Hmm.
You
Yeah.
know? Wow. Okay, so you're LGBTQ plus
Hmm.
and an activist.
Hmm.
How do those identities shape the way you show up, especially in your work and your parenting?
Yeah. Um, it shows up in so many ways. I I am I'm a queer woman and I did not identify myself there until after I became a mom. Um, and I was talking to my spouse one day. We were just talking and stuff and blah blah. And I was like, "Yeah, because I'm pansexual." And my spouse was like, "Did you just like come out to me, like just sitting here?" I'm like, "I guess I did," because like for me, it was like a lot of things. Okay, so I told you I
Mhm.
have anxiety. So for me, it was a couple things. Number one, I just thought everybody was attracted to all sorts of people. Like, and that was just a normal. So I'm like, I don't really identify as anything. I'm just living my life.
Mhm.
And then once I started to realize, like, no, I am not. That's not everybody's experience. Then I was like, I don't want to come out because people are going to think that I'm just coming out for some kind of clout or to like increase some credibility, things like that.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
I didn't, come out and say that to people for a very long time. And then it was like, once I got over my own hang up about it, now I'm like,
Mhm.
I'm a queer woman. Woo, woo.
Yeah.
I'm like all over the place. And so and as an activist, in reproductive justice work, very much heavy on LGBTQ plus folks and being so mindful about, um, the language that we use when we are out doing any kind of work,
Mm.
and trying to help others with that language too. And we're still getting called into conversations about that. And even when we think we're doing doing it right, and people are like, actually, here's how you could be doing it better. It's like, thank you. I love that kind of feedback because
Mhm.
it only makes me better as a human being, but it makes me better in the work that I'm doing and allows me to reach more people who may have been turned off from listening to what I had to say
Mm.
because I was unintentionally using language that wasn't as inclusive as it could be. Um, and so I think that part, has really shaped who I am as an activist, who I
Mhm.
am as a mom. You know, we have always taken our daughter. We go to Pride every year in our city, and we're really heavily active in all the Pride stuff. And we take our daughter. She loves it. I mean, it's so colorful, so bright, and stuff. And
Yeah.
it's always been important for my spouse and I to have her understand that there's lots of different people, right?
Mhm.
And there's lots of different, ideologies and things that folks are all about, because the more exposure you have to different people, the harder it is to show hate and intolerance to those different people. It's
Mm.
like, folks, so many folks who grow up in very like small, isolated towns, and then they like go off to college or something and they get exposed to so many different kinds of people, a lot of
Mm.
their thought processes change because it's so easy to listen to stereotypes about people. It's so easy to hear stuff on the news and think, oh, this whole group of people is bad, right?
Mm.
That's easy to think that. And it's a lot more, I don't want to say it's more difficult, but it opens your eyes a lot more when you are just exposed to so many different kinds of people and different ideologies, and
Mhm.
learning about people's cultures and things like that. It's like, yeah, I can be understanding of that. My daughter has a friend at dance, and um, the mom, we were talking, and I had noticed at a few like birthday parties we had been at that she always gets cheese pizza for her daughter and not pepperoni and stuff. And I
Mhm.
was like, um, she was talking to me about her husband who is Muslim, and I was like, "Oh, I assumed that's why your daughter couldn't have pepperoni." She was like, "How do you know that?" And I was like, "Because my best friend's husband is Muslim, and so they don't eat pork." I know that's the
Okay.
thing. And she was like, "That's so refreshing to like have you know that." And I was like, "Yes, girl." And then since then, I feel like she's been so much more open, like just talking about her family dynamics and things like that. And I was like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
like, yeah. And I know how I exist in the world. If people are just listening to this, I'm a white woman. Um, and I go into a lot of spaces, and I have my entire career where I am a white woman talking to groups of black and brown folks.
Mhm.
Um, and for me, like, I named that elephant in the room. I know that there is a lot of distrust, especially when I'm coming in from like medical backgrounds and things like that. Like,
Mhm.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. She doesn't
Mhm.
know. It's like I don't know everything, but my job isn't to know all the ins and outs. My job is to listen, and my
Hmm.
job is to be understanding and empathetic, because that's what humans should be doing. Um, but that's how I was raised. So it was like,
Yeah.
my dad taught us that, like, you're not better than anyone else because of the color of your skin, how much money you have, none of that. You're not better than other
Mhm.
people because of that. So I
Mhm.
always grew up keeping that in mind, and that we all have something to learn from each other. Um, so, being a queer woman, and being a mom, letting my kids see like my full authentic self, like, I think that's really great, and so that she is exposed to so many different groups of people, um, and then can ask questions too. Like, we're always asking questions. We're a toddler. Questions,
Yeah.
questions, questions.
And you know that why is coming in there too. Hmm.
All day. Why? But
Mhm.
why?
Mhm.
But why?
Mhm. Man. Mm-mm-mm. What does torch mom mean to you?
Yeah. Um, I will say that you're the embodiment of it. And let me tell you why. What does it mean to me? It means energy. It means fire. It means lighting up. And I, so for the listeners, we're gonna pull back the curtain. So when we had chatted and had like a little intro call,
Mhm.
forgot that call was supposed to happen. I was trying to like get my computer set up, and I was like, ah. I like last minute remembered, and I was like, oh my god. Um, but your energy is like light. It's lit up. It's lit up. And so when I think about like a torch mom, I think about finding the thing outside of being a mom, finding the thing that lights your fire,
Mm,
because that is going to make you the best mom you can be. When
mm,
you are fired up, when you are passionate, when you are just have that light, that glow, um, and taking that time to pursue that, whatever that means you get to come back as your full authentic self as a mom, and your kid gets to see that there are things that can light me up too. There are things that
mm.
I can be passionate about. And when I find that thing, I can't wait. And so, it's good for our kids to see us outside of being just mom. It's good for our kids
Yeah.
to see that. It's good for our kids to see, like, we need a break. I need a minute. I need to
Mhm.
go step outside or step away from the situation, or I'm at a conference for work. My kid knows I work. But she asked me
Mhm.
she's like, what did you do for work today? Kind of thing. She sits right next to me in all my meetings, when they're on Zoom and stuff. So, but it's good for her to see too the other side. It's good for her to see me speaking at a rally. It's good for her to see me, you know, um, doing some sort of education or something like that. Or, when I'm designing stickers and she's sitting next to me and like, what are you making? It's like, oh, I'm making this sticker. And I find some way to get her involved in the process of it.
Yeah.
So, or I'll print out like the sticker I'm making, I'll print it out as a coloring sheet so she can do hers and make her own little like stickers and stuff like that. So we're doing these
Yeah.
things together. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, they gotta feel, a part of it. We're not.
Hmm.
I mean, why are you here? We're here together. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Getting her little sticker together too.
It's so fun. Now that I have a
Yeah.
wireless printer, she's like, "Can you make me some coloring sheets?" Yeah, sure. I got you. So we make them
Hmm.
together. You know what I mean? She picks out which kind of things she wants, and then I send them to the printer. She's on her way. I'm in a meeting. I'm getting some work done. I'm getting a speech written up for something. Um,
Hmm.
while she's doing her coloring and I'm doing that, and yeah, we're just having a grand old time.
Okay. We're both occupied and doing our own thing. Okay.
That's right. That's
Together.
right. Yep.
I love it that you guys hear that. It is possible. Do it with them because they like to feel included. They do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, let's get into it because you do all of the things
Mm-hmm.
and you're navigating life as a disabled mom.
Mm-hmm.
What's something people don't see or understand about balancing motherhood, work, and your own needs?
Yeah. Um, so I have a degenerative disc disease in my back. And so I have a lot of chronic pain. Um, and so sometimes that looks like, why isn't she playing with her kids? Why is she just sitting there? Because like there are times I physically can't stand for more than a few minutes without being in
Mhm.
extreme pain. Um, and it's tough. It's tough trying to balance everything. It was a huge shift for me because I'm that person, like you said, I've always been that person that's like, go, 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 doing this, doing that, on to the next thing. Um, I have ADHD, so my brain is like, I get an idea and I'm
Mhm.
100% all into that idea. And I hyper focus on it. I'm fixated on that idea.
Mhm.
Hence the podcast. And the business and all the other things, right? And so I get really focused on these ideas and I get really into it. Um, and having, the past few years, since my chronic pain started, having to shift because I was like used to being that person, like, my spouse and I, we're out in the streets, we're walking, we're marching, we're doing this, we're doing that. And I can't do
Mhm.
that anymore. And I felt like a failure. I felt like I was failing. I felt like I was failing as an activist. I felt like I was failing as somebody who really cares about social justice issues. I'm like, I know the importance of like bodies in the street, not just for the optics, but it's important, and it's important to build community when you're there. It's important to get to know people,
Mhm.
that exist within your community that you never knew were there before. Um, and I couldn't do that. I can't do that anymore. And I struggled for a very long time with that. I
Mhm.
struggled for a long time not being able to, stand in front of a room and give a presentation like I used to do. Um, and I had to really shift how I do things, right?
Mhm.
I spent I spend all this time telling people there's no one right way to be an activist. There's no one right way to do this or that or the other thing. And yet I wasn't taking my own advice. And
Mhm.
so once I started to realize how can I do the things I love within the restrictions that I have now, right?
Mhm.
I'm a mom. It was different before I was a mom going out in the streets, like going out to protest at night. I'm not bringing my toddler to a nighttime protest. I'm not, because it's unpredictable, right?
Mhm.
It could be the safest of environments, but I have seen time and time again they turn very unpredictable very quickly, and I'm not about that life anymore. Also, I can't run like I used to.
Mhm.
Um and my goodness, my voice is like, not today, sweetie. So I don't want to put other people in danger either. And
Mhm.
so really, the way it has kind of shifted for me is like I can do things virtually. I'm very tech savvy. I'm very like do all this stuff, in the background, in the back scenes. I love learning new programs, learning how to build my own website, learning how to do a podcast, learning
Mhm.
how do I host my own workshops? How do I allow people to pay for them? How do I do this? I love that stuff. Like that stuff
Mhm.
like fires me up, and it brings me a lot of joy to figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
So I knew I could do it that way. I can do activism this way. I can do mom activism in this way. And so, uh, my co-director, we both co-founded with a bunch of other people, but we're currently the co-directors for a local reproductive justice organization in our city. And we're both
Mhm.
moms of toddlers, and we're both have chronic disabilities. And um, we started a virtual meetup for moms to talk about these issues, to talk about what's going on. I can go live on social media. I have social media. If you have one follower on social media, you're an influencer. Okay. You don't need thousands. Someone told me this advice once when I was at a conference. I was like, oh, shoot. Yeah. Like, you don't need thousands and thousands of followers to start doing your thing and saying what you want to say.
Mhm.
You'll attract the right people.
Yeah.
When you start speaking your truth, you'll attract the people who need to hear it and want to hear it. And so just shifting your mindset on what it looks like and how it can look different doesn't mean you don't can't do those things anymore. It just means you just have to think about how to do them differently and in a different
Mhm.
avenue. But
Mhm.
these young kids are in the street now. You know what I mean? Like I had a good friend tell me, you know, because I was, talking to her about this struggle, and she was like, back in 2020, you know, my spouse, he was like very much like front lines, be out at a protest, and he started to have a lot of chronic pain flaring up, and he couldn't go out, and he was feeling the same, very similar way as you. And that was about the time that you and your spouse were out on these streets, going to protest, being on the front lines, doing the thing. And so you have to recognize that now the baton has been passed. The next set of folks are going to step up and step in. It doesn't mean there's a hole in that place. It means somebody else is there filling it. And
Mm,
that really helped me to be like, shoot, okay, I
mm-hmm.
can be okay with that now. I can sit with it
Yeah.
now. It still sucks sometimes. I won't lie to you guys. It's
Yeah.
still so hard. I want to be out there. I love that stuff. I love that. The energy you get from being there, the energy, and just like I said, I always work to build community. As my biggest thing. Learning about new people, learning about things that are going on where you live. But you can do
Mhm.
that where it makes sense for you as a mom or as a disabled person or as a disabled mom.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, you have that community and it's local for you guys and virtual too. So
Mhm.
I would love to add that to the description section because we never know who's listening that may need to, connect with you guys. And that's definitely something to have. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I would love to get that info from you so I can put it in there and make sure that they have it. And how would
Yeah.
you say you balance protecting your peace while still using your voice?
um, I have to remind myself that it is okay to not have to know everything as it's happening.
Mm,
It is I am that person that's like I have to know exactly when these things happen, and then do I have to make like a social media post? Do I have to do something? Blah, blah, blah. It's like calm down. You don't. You don't. We've gotten into this like with social media. Like I love social media. It sounds like I don't. I love it. And we've gotten into this culture of we need the information as it's happening. Like actually we need the information before it even happened, right? Like it has to
mm-hmm,
be and everybody has to put it out. Who's going to be the first? Um And so there are times when I feel myself clenching my jaw, like scrolling social media, that I'm like,
mm-hmm,
nope, I need to do something else. I need to get away from this. I don't need to look at this right now. I need to take a break. Um, and when you're in community with a lot of great folks, as long as you're all not stepping back at the same time, you take turns, right? Um, and that's something that I talk to a lot of folks like on our reproductive justice team. They're like, I feel like I'm not doing a lot. It's like this work ebb and flows, babe. There are times you're gonna be like in it, going hard, doing everything, and there are gonna be times that you can't. And don't feel bad about the times when you can't do all the things. Just ask and say, I need to kind of take 2 steps back. I'm not totally out. I just need to take 2 steps back for a minute. It's not because I
mm-hmm,
don't care, it's because I've got a lot going on. Great. I have time to take 2 steps, an extra 2 steps forward. I got you, right? Someone else on the team is able to pick up some of the slack, right? So,
mm-hmm.
kind of, the balance of it is hard. It's difficult, but it's necessary, or you'll burn out. You'll just burn out, and then you're of no good to anybody.
Yeah. We don't want that.
No.
We don't want that. Well, that's super cool. I mean, you get to just give yourself a break and know nobody's judging you or like, what are they doing? Like they're not doing their thing, sideline talking about you or anything like that. You have someone that's right there on team with you, picking it up where you left off. And when you're ready to come back, come on, we're going to do this thing
Mhm.
together again. And that's super cool to have because you don't want to take that rest or that break because someone might look at this that way or feel
Mhm.
this way, and we really have to give ourselves the peace on the opposite side. and not give two hootenannies sometimes, even though you do give a hootenanny, you know, but you just got to put it to the side for a little bit. It's okay.
Oh, absolutely. I struggle with that. I will say that it's a struggle. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, what a privilege it is for me to be able to take a step back. You know what I mean? Like I have a lot of guilt around it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I had to remember like I am not the only person doing this work. I am not the only person responsible.
Yep.
So let go of that. Let go of it. Taking a break, taking care of other things, whatever that may be, only makes you come back even stronger and more ready for the
You better tell it. You better tell it.
work.
Coming in here, giving the juice and the gems, the knowledge out, because it's not to say that we don't know. Sometimes you might need a refresher. And if you
Mhm.
didn't know, you get to learn something new or unlearn so you can have that new learn actually push you through your journey and take those steps that you never thought that you could because it's possible.
Mhm. Mhm. Absolutely.
So it's awesome to have had you here to drop that. So, other than the link that you'll be dropping soon, are there any more upcoming projects or ventures that you're excited about?
Yeah. So in addition to, workshop around, supporting parents talking to their kids about sex, I'm actually building a whole bunch of workshops. And so I'm really excited about it. It's a big part of my business that I've been kind of holding myself back at. So now I've put it out into the universe, and so now I actually have to do it. So I am very excited about that. I just wrapped up season 4 of my podcast, so I
Mm,
am looking forward to season 5 in a while.
congratulations.
Thank you. It's the most amazing journey. I love it so much. It's really great. So yeah, so kind of working on all of that. I've been working with some other amazing fellow sex educators that I, really admire, and working on really figuring out who I want to be in this work, and what I want to do in this work. So
Mhm.
that's been really exciting for me and really energizing. But yeah, doing a lot of fun stuff, being a guest on your podcast and a few other podcasts, which is my favorite thing to do. Like I love having a podcast, but nothing is more fun than being a guest because then I don't got to do the editing and all that stuff. So it's way more fun for me. But yeah,
Okay.
no, yeah, just continuing to just show up when I can show up, and
Mm.
do what I can do, and how I can do it, and yeah, just doing all the good stuff.
All right, man. I'm glad you shared that with us. Thank you for letting us in a little bit. But
Yeah.
you guys stay connected with Holly because I'm going to be sharing what she got going on. And like I said, you'll be able to find all information to get connected with her resources in the description section. Before I let you go, I have a couple more questions, but this one
Yeah.
here, what's one cycle you're intentionally breaking through your motherhood right now?
Ooh. Huh. One cycle that I'm breaking. I would say I'm trying not to be disrespectful.
No, you gotta let it out. You better let it out.
um, I'm trying to break the cycle of getting so frustrated, to the point where I like kind of snap, and
Mhm,
that's a lot of work for me. That's been a lot of work, um, and not letting like the little things get to me, and
mhm,
let the little things like the tiny things fester up. And so, instead of like snapping, like figuring out a way I can add in humor and diffuse the situation with humor because like that's what I do. That's my thing. So how can I make it silly and then we just kind of like move on from it? And that helps me, but that helps my kid. Like, one time
Yeah.
I was like, I just need to scream and throw pillows on the ground. So I was like, you want to do something fun? Let's scream into pillows and then throw them on the ground as hard as we can. It was a blast for both of us. I got aggression out. She thought it was the funniest thing there ever was. And it was totally great.
Yeah. Worked out, right?
I was like, I just want to throw this pillow on the ground so hard. I'm like, wait a minute.
Look, we figure it out, okay?
That's right.
Don't play with it. We figure it out some way,
That's right.
somehow. With a little bit of redirection behind it. Don't play.
That's right.
Do you have anything else you'd like to share with our audience, or is there anyone you'd like to give flowers to before we close out?
Ooh, yes. I would say I feel like I've given some good advice. So I'm gonna give flowers to my amazing friend that I've been talking about a lot in this podcast, my partner in crime and reproductive justice. Her name is Jill. Love her to pieces. She is like the person I can text about mom stuff, about social justice issue stuff, about stupid stuff. Like we send each other memes all day long kind of person, but her daughter is about 6 months older than mine and she continues to like just pave the way for me to be a good mom. Just from her showing up as such a great mom. And so I thank her every day just for being by my side in this work, and getting to do it with her is just been a blessing. It's been a true blessing when you get to do this work with someone you just truly admire and just love as a human being. So shout out to my girl Jill.
Okay. Yeah, shout out to Jill. That is what's up. I love it. Man, the connections that you are able to make with others, and they take you on a great ride, I'm thankful for some of those too. So I'm happy that Jill got that shout out tonight.
Yes.
Look, I want to say thank you so much again for your experiences, your insights. It was just valuable for our audience. Even the reflection moments, I know, we always need that. So I appreciate you taking the time and energy to share. It's truly appreciated.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you for giving space for that with your amazing podcast. You're awesome.
Oh, thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome. Man, you guys, if you love today's episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with another mom who needs to hear this. Have experiences or questions to share? Send us an email to thetorchmompodcast@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram, Threads, and Facebook at The Torch Mom Podcast. Plus, the Torch Mom Confessions hotline is always open. Call 202-670-6476 anytime, or use the voice memo link in the description if that's easier. And don't forget, this week's confession question, your voice might be exactly what another mom needs. If you didn't have a backstage pass to check out the live stream, it'll be available for viewing on our YouTube channel, The Torch Mom Podcast. So be sure to subscribe, like, and share. Negativity is forbidden, and energy is power. Remember, what you desire, you already have. We love you. Stay torch.